Hello, and welcome to the Florida Nurse Practitioner, ranked as one of the best medical podcasts in Florida. This is the official podcast of the Florida Association of Nurse Practitioners, the premier APRN advocacy organization in Florida for all nurse practitioners. If you are not a member, you should be. Join today. Just go to flanp.org and click on the red box, Become a Member Today. Members get all kinds of perks, including discounted CEUs, including autonomous practice recertification CEUs, insurance discounts, free monthly CEUs, and plenty more. So join today and make your voice heard. Help us help you. We are here to support all APRNs in Florida to practice to our fullest ability of our education and elevate the APRN profession in Florida. I'm Paul Bond, APRN, your host for this show, and I want to thank you for listening to the show and helping make it one of the 10 best-ranked medical podcasts in Florida. On today's show, intermittent fasting, the good and bad news about obesity in the U.S., a new influenza immunization, and more. But first, some housekeeping. I want to start by saying the board sends their thoughts and prayers to all those affected by the devastation from Hurricane Helene, not just here in Florida, but in every state that has been affected. And the 2025 FLANP conference planning is well underway. The dates are set for April 30th to May 2nd. The theme this year will be in line with the 60th anniversary of our profession. The slogan will be Nurse Practitioners, 60 years burning brightly and shining strong. More to come as is made available, so save the date. We'll be in Central Florida again, so plan to come out and learn, network, and have a great time with us. A call for abstracts will be coming very soon, so get your ideas together and get them to us. No idea is out of bounds at this point for any presentations. Are you really good at any billing or coding issues? Do you have any tips that other APRNs might be able to use to increase their reimbursements? Do you have a new or interesting way of providing care? Are you offering peptides or anti-aging to your patients? Maybe you have a special service line that helps generate extra revenue. What types of patients are you really good at caring for? Diabetics? Hormone balance? Everybody's got a certain patient complaint that they get really good at and enjoy taking care of. You can turn this into a learning opportunity for your fellow APRNs, and you can pad your resume at the same time. So put your ideas together and let us know what they might be. And our best-selling book, The Florida Nurse Practitioner Handbook, continues to be widely accepted as a go-to reference. Everything from licensure issues to scope of practice to autonomous nursing in Florida to employment issues is covered in the book. We wrote it in part because we field numerous complaints every week on APRN practice issues, so while some may say all you need to do is go read the relevant Florida statutes or go to the Board of Nursing webpage, this is in practice not actually the case. And in that there are multiple statutes that may pertain to your question, you can spend hours or days just researching the answer, and you still may not have the answers to your questions. Our handbook does those hours of research for you. Second, we explain things in more detail and less legal jargon than the statutes do. Remember, state statutes are written by lawyers for lawyers. Our book was written by nurse practitioners who actually practice in Florida. If you haven't gotten your copy of EA, you should seriously consider it. It'll save you hours of time just researching the law and may just help steer you clear of meeting the Board of Nursing under less than ideal circumstances. It's available as a physical paperback book or a digital download on Amazon, so get your copy today. And we now have a new committee forming, the APRN Business Practice Ownership Committee. Do you own your own practice? Are you considering starting one? This committee is for you if that's the case. Contact the association for more information on how to join, and you can help us help you in even more ways. And now for the news you can use. First up, September 2024, from the European Association for the Study of Diabetes annual meeting, 8-hour eating window improved glycemic control, small study shows. Researchers looked at 15 adults, 9 females and 6 males, in this randomized crossover study. Average age was 52, and the baseline weight was 175 pounds. BMI was 27.7. Hemoglobin A1C was around 5.5. Fasting glucose was around 84.7 milligrams per deciliter. And the inclusion criteria included having typical eating and drinking habits spanning over 14 hours per day, not meeting physical activity guidelines, and not on a current lifestyle intervention. All participants completed both study conditions, starting with 3 days of their unrestricted diet, followed by 3 days of an early or late time-restricted window. This was followed by a 7-day washout period, followed by another 3 days of eating in at least a 14-hour window and another 3 days of an early or late 8-hour diet. Researchers found that, compared with eating over 14-plus hours per day, eating only within an 8-hour window over 3 days significantly increased time in euglycemia, defined as 70 to 140 milligrams of deciliter for the BGL, by 3.3%. And while this is a small change, it is statistically significant given the minimal dietary change of timing only. Participants also lost an average of 2 pounds during the study, so you may consider educating your patients, diabetic and non-diabetic alike, about intermittent fasting and its benefits. And this is a simple thing you can do. Like I said, researchers found a 3.3% increased time in euglycemia, and patients lost an average of 2 pounds during the study. And the study was only about 3 weeks long. So this seems like a good way to control not only sugar but weight. So intermittent fasting is showing a lot of good benefits, and this is a simple way to help your patients gain some better health. And next up, 20 September 2024, a press release from the Florida State University College of Nursing to begin new master's degree program. FSU is launching a new master's program through the College of Nursing geared toward the fast-expanding area of AI in healthcare. This is the first program of its kind in the nation, and according to the press release, the degree will, quote, expand digital health initiatives into clinical benefits for patients through more advanced, efficient, and personalized care, end quote. The first class for the program begins in spring of 2025. So if this is something you may be interested in, you can go to the FSU website and go to the College of Nursing, and you can find out a lot more there. This might be a very interesting career path for you, as it is an up-and-coming area in healthcare and in tech. And next, 24 September 2024, from Health Day, 4 in every 10 U.S. adults in the U.S. is now obese. Severe obesity rising. First, the good news. Obesity rates in the U.S. have been unchanged since 2013. Now, the bad news. Obesity rates in the U.S. have been unchanged since 2013. Over 40% of U.S. adults are now obese, with rates roughly the same for men and women. New government data shows from the CDC. Severe obesity, however, defined as a BMI greater than 40, has risen. In 2013, 7.7% of adults were severely obese, but that number jumped to 9.7% 10 years later. The peak time for obesity was middle age. 46.4% of adults ages 40 to 59 were obese, compared to 35.5% of those aged 20 to 39, and 38.9% of those over the age of 60. with similar trends for severe obesity. As APRNs, we're perfectly positioned to make a difference in our patients' health in this area. Dietary and lifestyle habits are squarely within our scope of practice. Take time every visit with your patient to discuss their eating and or lifestyle habits. Even making small changes like changing from white rice to brown rice or from white potatoes to yams can make a difference. And just as the previous bit of news said, 3 days worth of 8-hour intermittent fasting can make a big difference with their weight also. Small incremental changes are easier to make and are easier to maintain for their patients. So little bits at a time consistently is probably going to be a lot better than making massive changes or trying to make massive changes with your patients all at once. And next up, more good news for those of you who ascribe to functional medicine principles. 18 September 2024 from the JAMA Open Network, flavonoid-rich foods, dementia risk, and interactions with genetic risk, hypertension, and depression. This prospective population-based cohort study included dietary data from adults aged 40 to 70 years in the UK Biobank, recruited between 2006 and 2010, with a mean follow-up of 9.2 years. The sample included 121,986 participants with a mean age of 56.1 years old. Comparing the highest with lowest quintile of flavonoid diet score, consuming 6 additional servings per day of flavonoid-rich foods was associated with a lower risk of dementia among all participants, those at high genetic risk, and those with depressive symptoms. The greatest risk reduction was observed in participants consuming at least 2 of the following per day: 5 servings of tea, 1 serving of red wine, half serving of berries, compared to those who did not achieve any of those results. And here again, APRNs are perfectly positioned to use this information. These are simple dietary changes that we can have our patients make that can be easily introduced into their diet without much change. So use this to set yourself apart from other providers. And next, 25 September 2024 from the AP, or the Associated Press. Fluoride in water poses enough risk to kids' IQ to meet EPA action, judge states. A federal judge in California has ruled that fluoride in drinking water poses a risk to the intellectual development of children, and the U.S. environmental regulations need to address this. He cautioned that it's not certain that the amount of fluoride typically added to water is causing lower IQ in kids, but he concluded that mounting of research points to an unreasonable risk that it could lower IQ. He ordered the EPA to take steps to lower that risk, but didn't say what those measures should be. Last month, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services determined, quote, with moderate confidence, end quote, that there is a link between higher levels of fluoride exposure and lower IQ in children. The National Toxicity Program based its conclusions on studies involving fluoride levels at about twice the recommended limit for drinking water. Though fluoride can come from a number of sources, drinking water is the main source for Americans. Nearly 2/3 of the U.S. population currently gets fluoridated drinking water, according to CDC data. And next, more good news for those of you who follow FM principles in your practice. This time, 23 August 2024, from the journal BMJ Gut. Emerging role of environmental pollutants in inflammatory bowel disease risk, outcomes, and underlying mechanisms. In a review of 32 mixed-type human studies, multinational researchers found growing evidence between various classes of environmental pollutants and the risk of inflammatory bowel disease. The 32 included human studies corroborate that heavy and transition metals, except zinc, air pollutants, per- and polyfluorinated substances, and pesticides are associated with an increased risk of IBD. with an exposure of air pollutants being associated with disease-related adverse outcomes as well. These studies suggest several overlapping mechanisms underlying these associations, including increased intestinal permeability, systemic inflammation, and dysbiosis. Zinc was linked to increased tight junction proteins. More and more, what is considered as, quote, traditional, end quote, research, or the type of research allopathic medicine has relied on for decades, is now finding a lot of what functional medicine or nutritional research has been saying for quite some time now. Growing evidence suggests functional medicine principles should not be dismissed as snake oil or sham medicine. And if you don't already, I suggest you start researching functional medicine courses and programs that are available to you. This is a rapidly growing field of medicine that is based on quality research, and our patients are using more nutritional supplements now than ever before. It's estimated that upwards of 70% of people in the U.S. are taking nutritional supplements or looking for alternative healthcare methods in one way, shape, or form. And it behooves both patients and clinicians, for us as clinicians, to learn how to properly choose and use them. Next up, 26 September 2024 from MedPage Today. The data are clear. Patients regain weight after stopping GLP-1 drugs. Research from multiple clinical trials shows that once patients begin using GLP-1s, they will need to use them the rest of their lives to maintain weight loss. Most of the participants in these studies had at least 7% or more of their lost weight regained once they stopped them. And here again, this is one of the problems with the pill for every problem method of healthcare. The introduction of this class of drug has been a boom for many reasons, but the long-term implications of their use haven't been yet realized. We're now seeing people lose both fat and muscle with the use of these drugs, so patients need to be educated on exercise to maintain their strength while they're on them. Diet and other lifestyle interventions are lacking in most programs for weight loss that use GLP-1s, and maybe that's something we need to reconsider. It should be just one more tool in the toolbox, not the only tool to use to lose weight. As more data is gathered with the ongoing use of these drugs, I'm concerned we'll find some more negatives as time goes on. And as always, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So if you are using GLP-1s for weight loss with your patients, or you're doing or working in a weight loss clinic of any type, I would strongly suggest that if you haven't, that you add to the program a complete program of dietary and lifestyle changes, including weight loss and healthy eating habits, so that patients can maintain their weight loss and maintain their muscle strength, and that they may one day get off the medications, and even if they regain 4 or 5 pounds back, they have healthy habits to keep the weight off. And next, 24 September 2024 from the JAMA Open Network, absolute and functional iron deficiency in the U.S. from 2017 to 2020. This cross-sectional study analyzed data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey from 2017 to 2020, pre-pandemic cycle. Participants included non-institutionalized civilian women and men aged 18 or older who had available serum ferritin, iron, and unsaturated iron binding capacity measurements. An estimated 14% of adults in the U.S. met the criteria for absolute iron deficiency, and an estimated 15% met the criteria for functional iron deficiency. Among U.S. adults without anemia, heart failure, chronic kidney disease, or current pregnancy, the estimated prevalence of absolute iron deficiency was 11%, and that of functional iron deficiency was 15%. These findings suggest that absolute and functional iron deficiency affect a large portion of American adults, even in the absence of anemia, heart failure, or CKD. Absolute iron deficiency was defined as serum ferritin less than 30 nanograms per milliliter regardless of transferrin saturation. Functional iron deficiency was defined as serum ferritin greater than or equal to 30 nanograms per milliliter with transferrin saturation less than 20%. So here again, something to consider when ordering at least initial labs on your patients and looking at optimal levels as opposed to the levels the lab provides as quote-unquote normal. And 20 September 2024 from the FDA, a press release, the FDA approves first self-administered flu vaccination. Today, the FDA approved the first of its kind self-administered flu vaccine. The vaccine, which is a nasal spray called Flu Mist, is manufactured by drug maker AstraZeneca and was previously approved in 2003 for healthcare provider administration. So this may be a better option for your patients and for your practice. No more need to purchase a volume of flu vaccines up front with the hope of being able to use them all within this season. Plus, it'll cut down on your storage requirements for vaccines, and it may be easier for patients since some obviously don't want to take the jab, quote unquote. So this may be something to consider for you. And finally, 27 September 2024 from MedPage Today, first ever biologic approved for COPD. The FDA has approved Dupixent, a biologic previously approved to treat atopic dermatitis, asthma, eosinophilic esophagitis, chronic rhinosinusitis, and prurigo nodularis for adjunct treatment for COPD with eosinophilic phenotype that is inadequately controlled. Trial data also showed improvements in quality of life and lung function with numerically greater improvements in post-bronchodilator FEV1 and a significant improvement in pre-bronchodilator FEV1. The most common adverse events with the medication include viral infection, headache, nasopharyngitis, back pain, diarrhea, arthralgia, urinary tract infection, injection site reactions, rhinitis, eosinophilia, toothache, and gastritis. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks again to our listeners for making us one of the best medical podcasts in Florida. Thank you again to all who came out to the conference a couple months ago and helping make it a huge success. We appreciate your support and feedback and look forward for more information on the upcoming conference. We look forward to your help and support with that also. We'll be announcing more of that as it comes out, so look for that coming up very, very soon. If you want to be a part of organizing it or you would like to be a presenter, please notify us, contact the association, and let us know. We are more than happy to have your help. And don't forget, get your copy of the indispensable Florida Nurse Practitioner Handbook on sale through Amazon for electronic and paperback now. As always, this is Paul Bond, APRN, for the Florida Nurse Practitioner Podcast, a presentation of the Florida Association of Nurse Practitioners, the premier organization for all APRNs in Florida, and the largest statewide APRN advocacy organization. Thanks for joining me today, and have a great day.